Well, hey everybody, I'm Jenifer Wisniewski with the Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency, and I'm here today to talk to you a little bit about geofencing, some of the projects that we've done with community lakes and boat ramps and a couple other things. I'm excited to talk to you today. I'm flattered that you picked me for sessions of all these wonderful concurrent sessions going on right now. I've got an over-under pool of about 100 that's attending, so I'm betting on the over, so hopefully I win. So today's the first day of the conference, and I'm sure Frank and Jay just got us off such a great start this morning, and I would just like to put a unsolicited plug for Jay's class, Convince and Convert. It was one of the best classes that I've gone through as a marketer, and we need more marketing skills in this industry. I can certainly tell you that, and that's a wonderful class for professional development. If you ever have the opportunity to do that, it's a great class. So without further ado, let's talk a little bit about geofencing. So we have done several geofencing experiments over the last couple of years. Last year at the the RBFF conference, I talked about our geofencing experiment, and since then we've done several more. So we'll talk about all of those experiments, but first off, let's talk about what a geofence is. So with our little mobile devices, when we go to places, we're tracked all the time if those location services are turned on. So you enter a geofenced location, then we get to track you from there, and when you open up a browser or any of the apps that use this technology, then you start seeing ads because you were in, say, a building or, say, a sporting goods store like Bass Pro Shops. Then you can be tracked around with that ad for a period of time after you've gone there. And you can do geofencing historically. So say you wanted to find everybody that had been to Disney World in the last, 6 months, then you could target that group of people. So it's a little big brothery. It can feel a little icky, but it's what's going on out there in the world of marketing. And there's a lot of benefits to this as a marketer. You can think about how you can target people on just their location. So you can target people if they are at state parks or sporting goods stores, or so many different things. So we're going to talk about some boat ramps that we did later. So you can use localized content. So if you're doing an event, you can target people that are just in that area with that localized content about that water body or that specific event, and you know that you're hitting your target. It's fairly inexpensive to do all of this. So just, for a couple $100, couple $1,000, you can really make an impact with these targeted ads. And you can still use your data, your license data, as exclusion lists. So you're making sure you're not talking to people that already have licenses. And you can use inclusion lists. So you can say, these are the lapsed people that are in this area. We want to make sure that you target these people. So you can really, really leverage your data to make a more valuable campaign. And then you can gain insights into location usage. Say you want to know how many people visit your state parks or WMAs. You can kind of get a handle on knowing that because you know how many impressions you get to serve up afterwards. There are some challenges with geofencing. Personally, I haven't wanted to come off as too big brother, so the technology exists that when you walked onto one of our properties, we could ping your phone and send you a push notification and say, welcome to such and such public fishing area. And that might be a little too much. So we haven't gone that far. But it's an option. So we're walking that line of balance. Also, if your phone's location services are turned off, well, you're not playing the game. You're not going to be able to be reached with geofenced advertising. And we set spending goals and impression goals. And when you don't know how many people are going to be in an area with their location services on, with their phone in their pocket, you may have to adjust your spending or adjust how many impressions you're getting to try to hit that spend or hit that goal. So say you wanted to spend $8,000 or that was your budget, but you didn't have enough people come in that location for that period of time. You might have to expand your period of time that you're advertising for, or you might have to expand your circle or your area. So a little bit about geofencing. So hopefully everybody's understanding it. If not, you're sitting at your computer, right? So go Google it. Don't pay attention to what I'm saying. No, kidding. So let's talk about a couple of things that we've done where we geofenced ads. This we did 2 years ago, and I thought it was worth bringing up again because it was such a successful project. So we went to the Nashville Farmers Market, a very popular farmers market, and said, fresher than the farmers market, go catch your own fish. And then we did another one at the Wilderness Wildlife Festival that's kind of like this photographers and nature lovers go there, and our message to them was help conserve wildlife by buying that license. We geofenced those events. For the farmers market, it was weekends and during the month of May. For the Wilderness Wildlife Festival, it was just for that 4-day, 5-day wildlife festival, and served up ads to people for 30 days following that event. And then this is very important. Ads were only shown to people with no account, so they had no account at all, or longer than 18 months lapsed. So they had no account with our agency, had never purchased a license, or had been lapsed for longer than 18 months. So we are not serving ads up to people that were about to buy a license anyway, or were holding a license. So at the farmers market, you can see we had a fun time cooking, and we gave away fried catfish to everybody, different times before COVID when you could just like hand out food willy-nilly. And so we had some great numbers for impressions. We sold almost 6,500 licenses. We made $205,000 out of spending $8,700. So that's some crazy revenue generating. I mean, just wildly successful. And unfortunately, we haven't been able to do it since because of COVID. But as soon as we can, we're going back. And then the Wilderness Wildlife Festival, another wildly successful event where we set up a booth. All of our agencies do this, where we go to some expo and we set up a booth. Well, you can also make money off of that. You can geofence it and sell people their licenses. So the guys at the booth were sure to put plugs in and say, hey, don't forget, if you buy a license, it helps support wildlife, and don't feed bears. That was pretty much our message at our booth. But we had, almost 300,000 impressions, sold 2,300 licenses. Conversions is number of licenses sold. So that was $51,000 worth of revenue off of spending $2,000. Again, very little investment to make a very big return. And, we probably spent 3 times that as resources to, pack up the trucks, go to this place, staff it for 5 days. So when you consider the investment on both scales, this one, you can track some success to it and some return on investment. Another thing that we did last year, the COVID year, was geofence boat ramps. So we did these on Facebook's digital ads. So these ads were started up through Facebook, and we did it to adults that were over 18, and we picked 250 boat ramps in the state of Tennessee. There's way more boat ramps than that, but we picked 250, and we ran a campaign from May to August. And this, again, excluded all current license holders, and we did pixel tracking for view-through conversions. So that way, if say you're scrolling through Facebook and you see the tackle boredom ad you see here, we've made sure to use fishing on a boat for the ad. Then you clicked on it or you saw the ad, then, a day later you went to buy your license. That way you can click that view through. And then also UTM tagging for direct click through. Again, if you don't know what any of these things are, Google it. You're sitting right there at your computer. I'm sure you can do 2 things at once. So this was a fantastic return too. Another great success. Highly recommend geofencing some popular boat ramps and marinas. So you can see the month-by-month breakdown. May was our best month by far with $121,000 worth of revenue. That's $9 returned on every dollar that you invested. There is not an investment in the world that does that right now. So you see this is the picture of my daughter taking one of her first boat rides, but you see her getting a little more excited. That's what I do when I'm thinking about geofencing. I get a little more and a little more excited. So all in all, the total was $5.30 for every dollar we spent. We generated $260,000 in license sales. That we sold over 6,500 people a license. That's R3, folks. That is R3. So big takeaways from this one. We did, this one was Facebook ads versus the farmers markets were Google display ads. There's some differences there. One key difference being with Facebook, whether you use your phone in a geofence location or not, Facebook tracks you. The Google display network, it's a little different. You have to have used your phone in that location. So there was a higher, we could get higher rates of impressions, but again, those were only shown on Facebook, so you had to go to Facebook and see the ad. On Google display, you could see it on whatever website you were at. Sales grow with these one-off efforts. Every time we add one of these experiments, we see growth in sales. Concurrently running in the background are other, are what we call our evergreen ads. So we still have our regular ads running. So you will see this ad, and if you entered a boat ramp that was geofenced, you would see this ad too on Facebook. So even though our sales grow over time, it's not always in those $23 chunks. Sometimes now it's in $10 chunks. So it's not as what would you call that? Not as huge of a growth, but it's still a big growth and still very much worth the investment. Just when you think about investing in marketing and in R3, these are bulletproof ways to do it. All right, next project up, community lakes. So a lot of agencies have what they call an urban fishing program or a community fishing program, neighborhood fishing program. It's all the same thing. We go stock a pond that's near population center and hopefully get some folks to go fishing there since it's nearby and highly populated. Well, our agency had historically done a lot of urban fishing programs, but we hadn't very advertised them very well. So we would stock these lakes and, people would just be there fishing. So our fisheries was doing a great job getting the fishery up to par, but we weren't doing a great job advertising that opportunity. So we tried a new way of doing things. In Nashville and Chattanooga, we stocked a lake that was in a city park-like area. So there's amenities there. There's picnic tables, restrooms, all those types of things. And we stocked those areas and we geofenced ads around them and used an 8-mile radius. We just picked a number out of the air. We started at a 5-mile radius, and that was a little too small. We weren't getting enough impressions, so we bumped that up to an 8-mile radius, and we felt like we were getting some good impressions at that point. We used the Facebook ad platform again. You see the ad here. It's a fish like a local, and come find the fish that are so close they're practically neighbors. So the agency, we stocked both locations multiple times. We also did creel surveys at those locations in June and July. Some cool things from the creel survey. 99% said that they would go fishing there again. 80% were very satisfied. The primary motivation for them going fishing there is because it was close to home. And 82% lived within 10 miles. So these are people that were literally wanting somewhere close by to go do something. It very well may have been some COVID effects, but we're going to, of course, do the community fishing lakes this year again. But we did over 20 Learn to Fish events. And yes, you're saying, what? You did events in the COVID year? Yes, we did. We followed all local guidelines of wearing masks and staying outdoors and separate as we could. And we registered people through our event system. So now this year we'll be able to know if we can reach out to those people again and encourage them to come back fishing and retain them. Then we use bass teams, your high school fishing teams. They're great to use for volunteers. They're great kids for helping out. And we did an event with Outdoor Afro too. I mean, this is a great way to use special interest groups to get them out there to go fishing. But this is what we'd pitch a tent, put an event out there on Facebook and promote it. And there'd be people show up every time. And it was a lot of families. It was great fun. So takeaways, so with the $17,000 ad investment, we were able to get $40,000 in license sales. Now, also remember that these were ads as well as events that we promoted. When we advertised these urban opportunities, we really increased the R3 efforts, and we had some sales cannibalization, like I was talking about before, because we had circles that were overlapping with not only the evergreen ads, but with the boat ramp ads. So, this is still a great return on investment. But again, each effort you add, you can't always expect it to exponentially grow each time. But the ROI was never bad, but it did get better when we started doing, no, I don't. When we started doing promoted events on Facebook. So instead of running that ad, we put more money into promoting the event to do something a little different. And that worked out pretty well. And again, it was lapsed people and people that did not have an account that this was shown to. And Nextdoor, if you're not using Nextdoor, start. It's a fantastic app to get people to your events. The people that are on Nextdoor are not always on other social media platforms. So I would just very much recommend you use Nextdoor for promoting events. All right, so let's talk a little bit about results. Does anybody need a break? You can stand up, jump around, do a little moving, shaking. Am I boring you yet? All right, let's go results. R3 success. So we're definitely going to continue these current efforts. We're going to go back to those farmers markets and do those expos and geofence those whenever COVID ends or we just are able to. We're going to continue doing boat ramps this year, and the community fishing lakes. We're expanding from Nashville and Chattanooga to also do Memphis and Clarksville, a couple other areas this year. So we're really excited about that. We're going to continue doing those agency R3 events at those fishing locations. We're excited. We haven't gotten our Take Me Fishing trailer yet, but we're so excited to get that fishing trailer going so we can do our fishing state tour with our fishing outreach coordinator, David Lowry. He's so excited. And we're going to do WMAs and sporting goods stores again. I did want to mention this. I know this is the Recreational Boating and Fishing Conference, but there are other uses for agencies to use geofencing WMAs and maybe sporting goods stores or other locations. We have CWD in Tennessee, unfortunately, and one really, really successful way that we were able to reach out to public land hunters is geofencing our WMAs and sending directly to those people that were on those WMAs messages about the new regulations with CWD and just how to be safe and make sure you're not transporting CWD anywhere else. So those are really, really cool ways to use geofencing. But there's other new things that we're thinking about trying this year. Now, I'm not going to say we're going to do all these, but they're things that I've thought about. Geofencing state parks. So Connecticut actually did a Making It Last grant, geofencing a state park and reaching out to the people that were in several state parks. And I just think that that's a great idea, especially if it was state parks that had fishing in them, to geofence anybody that was going to those state parks and make sure that they know, hey, that state park has fishing opportunities. And maybe partnering with state parks to do a combo promo, so maybe both of us could have a little skin in that game. We're toying around with some push notifications and trying not to be too big brother, but maybe push notifications for when seasons open, push notifications for when it's the perfect weekend to go fishing, something along those lines. Maybe that's a little less big brother and a little more user friendly, so it's some information that people would want to know. And then colleges and universities, that's a great place to geofence. You could target those people with a specific message about getting outdoors, fishing, doing it safely, do a localized event or a localized location, fishing place to go. Outdoor festivals, that's just a no-brainer. If people are outdoorsy, they're more likely to want to go fishing. We know that from not only RBFF's research, but gosh, all the research that's out there from Southwick and Responsive Management, DJ Case. You can look at any of their stuff and you can see when they're outdoorsy, they're way more likely to want to go fishing. So it's an easier lift. Popular parks. It doesn't have to be a state park. Maybe it's a local park. Areas with fishing nearby. Schools. A thought that I've had is, there's all these moms sitting in line to pick up their kids from school at a certain time of day. That might be a great place to geofence. If there's a cool pond that's nearby a school, maybe you could geofence that school and serve up ads to those moms waiting for their kids and say, hey, here's something you can do after school with your kids. Mega churches is another one. Maybe that's a great place to target to talk about, a getaway that you can do, a family-friendly getaway. Even out of state, there's a lot of border waters. I've thought about doing, maybe Lake Gunnersville in Alabama, geofencing that and say, hey, you think the crappie fishing is good here? You should come to Tennessee. So just some different ideas. I don't know if any of them will fly, but I'm sure we'll do some of them this year. And I hope that you'll geofence do some experimenting. And when you do, tell me about it. I'd love to hear about it. My email is jenifer.wisniewski@tn.gov. And if you don't know how to spell that, I'm sure you could look it up and find it. And last but not least, I'll plug the Association for Conservation Information. If you are a conservation communicator and you haven't heard of ACI yet, please Google it and look us up and join us. It's a wonderful organization, and I hope to see you there. Have a wonderful day. Enjoy the rest of the conference.
Thank you, Jenifer. Now we have some time for questions. And I'm going to stop screen sharing here. If you have questions, please put them in the chat and we will read them out loud. And I'm going to ask Dave Chanda to ask the first question of you.
Sure. Thanks, Steph. Early in the presentation, Nicole from Massachusetts was asking about that she had seen some news about Apple's new iOS that they require an opt-in for privacy settings. And she was just asking, do you know how that might impact the ability to geofence or personalize ads? Are you changing your strategy to this year in response?
Yeah, that's kind of a scary thing for us marketers to. It's a good thing for me as a private citizen. I feel better that Big Brother may not be so much in my pocket, but we're playing things by ear. We may lessen our Facebook spend if we can't track it because, I still live in a world where I need to track that my ad dollars are performing like I need them to. So it may be something, we're sticking our toe into TikTok ads this year, and we're doing a lot more social media influencer type marketing too. So we're also making sure that we're driving people to our app to purchase things and downloading our app, because then it's our app that you have on your phone, and we can get push notifications to you via our app. There's lots of things. When Sarah Parker Polly was like, yeah, we have the majority of our transactions now happen through our app, I was like, man, how do we do that? Gosh. So yeah, we've got lots of opportunities to be better at some things.
Excellent. There's also another question with Google Ad Networks. You're not supposed to promote or sell government documents, including licenses. The question was, have you received any warnings? They just keep going, or I assume that's what Tennessee is doing as well.
Yeah, and I have not received anything. Now, I thought that was supposed to be more geared towards the bogus license sellers. So maybe the folks that are, us agencies may be different. Right. I'm not sure.
Well, yeah, congrats to a lot of the states that got engaged in that. A lot of those bogus license sites were taken down. There are still some issues, but many of those are down.
Hey.
So we do have a question from somebody that says they're a complete noob. That's me too. If you exclude license holders, what database are you drawing from to detect people inside your fence?
Oh, sure. So we use lookalikes. You can base lookalike audiences. You can do, if you had a certain ads that you wanted women from 30 to 35 to see that lived in these counties. I mean, there's millions of different ways you can segment an audience. That's why the research that the RBFF folks presented this morning from Ipsos, that is super valuable for how you want to target an audience. So if you're trying to get those new first timers, well, we just saw who they are and we can target people based on those audiences. So we do use a lot of lookalikes though. Like we'll take, you know, current angler and say, okay, who else's online behavior looks like this behavior, and target people that way as well.
That's awesome. I'm also going to piggyback on your plug for ACI. You know, I may be an old dinosaur, but in my early days, I was very engaged with ACI when I worked with the state. I was the president of ACI, and anybody that doesn't take advantage of the knowledge and the networking you can get at that organization, you really do need to belong. So I was happy to hear you plug that. Steph, I think we're caught up if you want to take over.
I was just
have 2 minutes
through, and I think some of that was answered there, but I'm going to ask you, Jenifer, if you, what is your biggest insight for people that are going to be exploring geofencing?
You know, I wouldn't be afraid to try things and fail. We tried a NASCAR event and it failed miserably. Like we didn't get a return on investment at all. So, you know, Bristol, Tennessee NASCAR fans are not so much the people that we should be targeting. So, you know, sometimes you learn as much from a little bitty failure as you learn from doing some of these things that are bigger efforts that succeeded greatly. So.
Thank you. I know we'll get prompted here by Jay. We have in about 1 minute. I'll just ask you to also tell us, what are you most excited to try next?
Oh gosh, so I really like the idea where I go to state border waters and say, hey, you think the fishing is good over here? You should try the fishing over in Tennessee. Let's go next. We'll see. And I will say that RBFF is running a pretty tight ship with this conference so far. Good job, y'all.
Well, thank you. We'll get the breakout sessions to be a little smoother tomorrow, but I want to thank you for presenting and answering questions. And I know you were getting through some things in the chat. If there's anything else we didn't get to, feel free to put it in the chat now, or I know Jenifer provided her email. You can follow up with Jenifer directly afterward as well.
and congratulations, you hit your over under.
Yay.
Any other questions in the chat?
Trying to read. When we're talking about data sharing, we match on emails, and we have more than 40% emails of our customer database.
Thank you. All right, cool. It looks like we are prompted to go back to the general session. So I'm going to stop recording and I'll see you back there. Thank you very much, Jenifer.
Bye.